Well, it is official. The 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, 18 minutes of a speech. We just timed it. He's just spoken for 18 minutes after being sworn in by the Chief Justice in the United States of America. Quite an impeccable time, a very big time for people in America and the world over, as many have been keen to listen to this particular speech by the 45th President of the United States. Here on KTN News, definitely bringing you live and in studio. We are going to be talking about that speech, analyzing some of the things that have been said, what it means for Americans and other countries like in Africa that have been benefiting from the US of A. And joining me in studio, I'll just start by introducing my guests at this moment, starting from my far right, Tom Wolf, who is a researcher. Thank you for coming in. We have Joseph Kioko, a public policy analyst, as well as Dr. Ken Kambona, who is a governance expert. Thank you very much for coming in, gentlemen. Well, it has been 18 minutes compared to the two times we have seen Obama make this particular speech. Doesn't even make for half of it. What is this new way of doing things by Donald Trump? I think I'll start with you, Tom Wolf.
Well, just in terms of the brevity of the remarks, we were told in advance that this would not be anything like a policy speech, laying out any details for his legislative agenda, but rather would be broad language about empowerment of the people through his presidency. Of course, others have pointed out that whenever he's prepared to give us more specific outlines of his policy, that's when we're really going to begin to see the cracks. Because the divisions in America over almost everything that he said, if you make a connection from each of his sentences with the implications for either legislation or policy positions taken and implemented by the executive branch, they're going to cause major divisions, not only between Republicans and Democrats, but within the Republican Party itself. Remember, and then I'll stop, two things. Mr. Trump, President Trump, is an outsider, has never held public office. The only other individual in recent memory who won the presidency without any political career was Dwight Eisenhower in 1952, and I can remember that. That's how old I am. Who was a retired general from the Second World War, so he was already a big public figure. So nobody really knows who the real Trump is. But the other divisions that are going to be critical, probably even more so because of the tyranny of numbers he has in both the houses of the national legislature, are within his own Republican Party. So he was very safe. He didn't make any single specific policy statement today, and we'll just see how long he can coast in that way before he has to put his cards on the table, and people will see who the real Donald Trump is. All right.
Kioko, going through my social media, of course, thousands, millions have been listening to that particular speech, and there's a general feeling that that was more of a campaign speech. But do you agree?
I think, first, the problem of what has happened in this election is to define the nature of the presidency, of the American presidency. Now, the American presidency is the free thinker of the world. He is the leader of the world, basically. Now, what happened in this election, they elected an American president, a gatekeeper of American interest. In this speech, Donald Trump has repeated time and again, I think over 10 times, he's been saying, let's make America great. Let's make America great. We know America is great. We don't suffer that. But somehow, there are people within American theater who believe that they were shortchanged and that they need to look inward. Now, this is an inward-looking president. What it portends to American interest, I think, by and large, in the short term, it might look good, but in the long term, American interests are going to suffer more on account of the articulation by the current president.
But Dr. Kambona, beg your pardon, going by what Kioko is saying, that it is a narrative of making America great again.
Yeah.
The rest of the world thinks America is great, but it seems like there's a certain disgruntlement among Americans. That's why majority of them voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, that is why many of them voted for Donald Trump. But I think that, like my colleague has said, America's influence surpasses just what I had in the speech there. All that everybody, everywhere in the world is looking for is peace. And the environment to do business, the environment to live a normal life. Now, for a long time, America has guaranteed that by its very values and principles. And telling us, and there's always hope in that. And it's probably a God-given responsibility, let's put it that way. And so telling us that, okay, that's all gone, at least from the speech itself, and that now we are just going to look, nobody has any problems with America being a strong country, America being put fast. Yes, a strong army, you know, the citizens having good health and everything, just like we should have in Kenya. But then you must always know there is a responsibility you bear that makes everybody in the world look up to you for peace.
It's like the big brother for the rest of the world.
Yes, big brother. And you cannot just, you know, sweep that below, otherwise somebody will take that space. And yes, it could be taken by anybody and we don't know where it could end.
You know, maybe to add on what Dr. is saying, I think in listening to this speech, one shivers because the story of Obama is a story of an immigrant coming, going through an American system and succeeding. Limitless possibility. Then comes this president who is telling people, these immigrants are a problem. Let's build a wall. Yeah?
Let's protect our borders.
Yeah, let's protect our borders. Let's make America again. And by the time he's offering an olive branch to other nations that we need to create friendly ties, it's friendly ties based on American strong position that nobody ever forsook. Now, this guy, the American president as he is today, is truly, truly reversing whatever gains Obama has put, whatever belief that people had in the American system. And I truly hope I don't wish him luck, but he sets himself up on a very negative precedent.
Tom looks like he's itching to say something.
Well, yes, we could go on and on, but a couple of points. First of all, when you talk about Americans having voted for Trump, let's just remember, first of all, within his own party, in all the Republican primaries, he got only 38% of the vote. But because, in contrast to the Democrats, the Republicans use a winner-take-all system, so that whoever got the most votes in these primaries in each of the states won all the votes for that state, as we saw in the election itself in the Electoral College. Whereas the reason that Hillary Clinton had such a long, drawn-out fight with Bernie Sanders is that the Democrats, by and large, have a proportional representation. So if Bernie Sanders won 55% of the Democratic votes in the primary in Minnesota, he would get 55% of those delegates and so on. So that went on much longer. Only about 55% of eligible Americans voted. Nearly half did not vote in this election. And as we know, I think someone just forgot, but as we know, among those who did, Clinton got 3 million more votes than Trump did. So he's a minority president. Now, of course, Trump and his people have said, if we knew we had a winner-take-all system in the election itself, we would have structured our campaign differently, rather than just targeting those critical states where we knew, even if we won by one vote, we would get all of those. But that's hypothetical, we don't know. But he is a minority president. But just coming back to the good points that my colleagues have been making, I don't know where Trump has been living. He's got international business interests in many countries, I'm not sure how many, which is, as we've seen from the legal point of view and American ethics regulations, is already, the moment he was sworn in 29 minutes ago, is now a legal, if not a constitutional problem for him. But this is a guy who moves money around the world, moves his investments all kinds of places. He should be the first one to know that the American dollar is the world's currency. What happens as a consequence of his taxation and spending policies affect the whole world, and these relate exactly to what our friends have been saying about instability, peace, terrorism, and the rest of it. The majority of American national debt is held in treasury bonds by the Chinese. I mean, is he deliberately deceiving his supporters in the country by putting himself in this America-only box that both of these fellows have described? I hope, for goodness sake, he knows that what he's saying is totally unreal. Because if he believes it, or to the extent that he believes it, he's going to have a very, very rude shock over the next couple of months. So the overall question for me for the next 4 years is, how much will Donald Trump have to change? Not because he wants to, but because when he walks out the door, he sees the world that doesn't, at the moment, seem to exist in his mind.
I think this speech, if I may say, I think this speech, as presented today, in his policy orientation, he's still in a campaign mode. He still feels his campaign. He needs to understand that he's won the election. He needs to unify the country together.
To sink in.
He needs to sink in on his part. I mean, stop the Twitter business, get him to become president, give a statement that unites the country, that rallies the world around the American nation.
Unite them under falsehoods.
All right, gentlemen. All right, definitely. We will come back with more discussions on that. Very interesting insights we're getting here about that speech, 18-minute speech by the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. We continue to bring you live proceedings from Capitol Hill. Of course, they're heading to the White House currently as we speak. But my panel continues to engage and give us a quick dissection of what a Trump presidency means for America and the rest of the world. But let's take a short break. Don't go too far. We'll be back with more discussions on the same.
Great.